members to silence and put away cell phones. If you need to step away or attend to personal matters, please make a motion to recess. For those participating by phone, please keep your device muted unless you are speaking. When speaking, kindly state your name for the benefit of those viewing the live stream. As a reminder, this meeting is being broadcast live. The camera is located above the clock at the back of the council chambers. Our proceedings follow Robert's Rules of Order as set forth in Wasilla Municipal Code 2.04.090. To promote an orderly and respectful meeting, I respectfully ask the council to observe the following rules. Please seek recognition before speaking. No member may speak more than twice on the same motion without a vote to suspend the rules. No member may speak a second time until all who wish to speak have had an opportunity to do so. These guidelines help ensure fairness, efficiency, and mutual respect during our discussions. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Cottle. Here. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Crafton.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Rubio.
Here.
You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor. All members are present with us in chambers.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Schmidt, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. The next item of business is approval of the agenda. I'm removing item 6.3, the ClearGov presentation from tonight's agenda. If council members have any questions regarding ClearGov, please direct them to the finance director. Before additional changes are discussed, are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none, are there further changes to the agenda? Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move item 8.3.3 to new business, please.
Was that 3 or 2?
3.
8.3.3. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, can I move 8.3.2 to new business?
Is there other? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as amended. There are no special orders of the day, so we will move on to commission and agencies report. We will hear from Acting City Planner Nygaard for a report of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. July 14th, the Planning Commission had a regular meeting. We passed legislation that was, the commission adopted the execution of the written decision denying application for the conditional use permit 2602. And then there was a little bit of housekeeping in the second resolution, which had to do with some agenda formatting. That was our meeting.
Thank you. We will now hear from HDL for an update on the sewer master plan.
Good evening, council members. My name is Chris Bowman. I'm with HDL Engineering Consultants. Eric Schaul asked me to come and give a brief update on the master planning efforts that we're going through for the wastewater system. So I introduced myself. Lion Kopczak was going to be here. He was feeling a little under the weather, so he wasn't able to make it. Also on our consultant team, we've been working with the city of Wasilla for the water system. As you're all aware, we were here about a year and a half ago to give a presentation on the interconnect project. This is the same consultant design team that is involved with that project, and also the same consultant design team that is on the water master planning effort that I'll probably be here in 6 or 9 months to give you an update on. So we've been working together for a long time, very familiar with the city of Wasilla's systems and some of the issues that come with that. So a brief history, Wasilla has a sewer master plan. It was from 1999. So, 25 plus years old. The system was primarily built about 20 years prior to that, give or take. And a lot of there was a lot of existing infrastructure from homeowners that was incorporated into the system, septic tanks. That was then piped to a central location at the wastewater plant via septic tank effluent pumping. I'll hit on some of the stuff that we're doing right now to remedy some of that older infrastructure. The goals, obviously, to update that plan. Along the way, identify projects that we can implement to take care of some of the short-term needs of the system, make sure that things are running efficiently with the goal of a long-term system health for the next 40, 50 years, because that's how long stuff has to stay in the ground. Under this overall contract, there's three main tasks. Task number one is the GIS mapping and facility inventory. Similar to what we did for the water system last summer, we are going around. You've probably seen some HDL trucks and a couple of young ladies with a GPS rover going out, shooting manholes, lifting septic tank lids. They've got vests and HDL gear on them, but they're going out and actually mapping all of the physical above ground infrastructure. As part of that, we went through all of the city's record drawings that they have on file. We've integrated that into a GIS base map. That field work will go through and update all the line work that we have drawn in there. Next slide has a little example of where we were and where we're trying to get to. Next month, we should be complete with the data collection portion of that task one. The wastewater master planning, we've been going through all the data that's out there for both the collection and the wastewater treatment plant. As you're aware, another consultant has been working down at the wastewater plant for many years. As part of that sort of data gathering, we were asked to do a third-party review of the plans for their sludge management project. So those were submitted to the city a couple weeks ago. We'll meet with them to go over comments and hopefully come up with some good design changes. Nothing huge though. And then task three, professional engineering design. That's like the plan development portion of this. I hit on the legacy septic tanks that were sort of inherited by the city. There's about 10 or 12 specifically located kind of around Lake Lucille that are probably in the groundwater. They're about 50 years old. I just had my septic tank dug up and it's 25 years old and it had a bunch of holes in it. I can only imagine what a 50-year-old tank that's next to Lake Lucille looks like. So that project will hopefully tackle some of that, the easy projects to help the system just in the short term. That project is scheduled to begin construction in the fall. So this is what we were working with originally. This was from 2021, I think. And it was just a basic line work with some blue and green lines on it that represent water and sewer system. There's no attributes to them. It has line size, but what we are getting at with the GIS data integration is something more like this, where we have a full map that's in ArcGIS. We can go and click on a manhole, for instance, And it'll tell us all of the attributes of that manhole. When was it constructed, diameter, depth. And we've done this for the water side already. And I'm sure Eric and staff can attest that this has been a huge benefit in O&M. The guys, when they get called out to do locates, are able to pull up this map and have a pretty good idea of what they're looking for and where it's supposed to be. That being said, it does require maintenance. We're training the public works folks to go in, manipulate this data, and keep it up to date as they find new assets and that sort of thing. These are Courtney and Eliza out in some of our beautiful Alaska weather the last couple of weeks, going out and collecting data. I think that was last Thursday when it was just pouring down rain. So they're troopers, and they're breaking in their extra tough. This is more just what I mentioned with the online data collection. I believe the city has a few iPads that they go out and they can update the database in the field. So again, just a huge asset. The legacy septic project, that top left photo is pretty indicative of what we're up against. It's just some general nastiness that occurs down in these pump stations. They are huge maintenance headaches for all the public works staff. Sometimes pumps burn out. We get infiltration, inflow, and doing these sorts of projects are really the low-hanging fruit on improving the system. This was just some of the initial design task. What that GIS map will help us identify is as we go through and we map some of these assets, we can pinpoint where high groundwater might be, septic tank age might be an issue. So all of it is going to just increase O&M capabilities within the city. What we also intend to do is run a system model so that we can see if pumps might be undersized. There are certain areas within the system where pump replacement is like an every couple of years type thing, and really you should be getting a lot longer out of those. So that system model will help us optimize the system, size things more appropriately. So what are we doing after we get these things that I've talked about progress? On the GIS data, we're going to finalize that mapping and create the system model so that we can really move on to task 2, because that is what is going to help us determine what the best fit for the city is long term. We're going to continue getting all that data to go towards the master plan. We have, as I mentioned, the pipe ages. We'll do some data collection on wastewater characteristics probably throughout the system, get all the socioeconomic data. We have the McKinley Group on our board or on our team as well to help with some of the socioeconomic analysis, because we really want to be able to target the development and make sure that we're there ahead of time before somebody says, I want to build, a 300-room Ritz-Carlton in Wasilla. We want to make sure that we can serve them and not get caught off guard. We're going to identify some of those system choke points, limitations, and then that'll help us develop those short and long-term projects. Ultimately, what we want to have for you is a decisional document that council can review and say, okay, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. We would like to move forward with a plan. It's an informational document so that y'all can make the proper decision. We're not here to make that decision for you. We're here to help you, help answer the questions and kind of guide you down the path that is best for the city. And obviously professional engineering design, we're gonna bid that legacy septic tank project, probably have some more next summer. We're also working down at the wastewater plant to provide DEC with some discharge monitoring reports and a permit application so that they can dispose of sludge that's going to be generated as part of that the sludge management project that Stantec's working on. So with that, that's what we're doing in a nutshell. I would love to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yeah, quick question for you. If you don't mind, do you know about how many tanks we have to replace still? It says 65%. Do you know what that number is?
Oh, that's 65% on the 12 tanks that we're designing. I forget the total number of tanks in the system. Eric, do you know?
Yeah, it's about 900.
Yeah.
And one follow up on that. And what is our time frame on projection to get those 900 done?
Well, I'll just jump right in. We don't need to replace all 900 of them, like in the next 10 years or anything. What we're trying to do is identify the highest priority ones as part of system maintenance to help reduce the infiltration inflow that's coming into the system, because anything that comes into the septic tank, we have to pump out, and that goes to the wastewater plant. So Eric might have another answer for that, but that's my answer.
Eric.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that the mapping is so important is it will give us the dashboard that we've seen on the water side, where we know linear footage of pipes, how big they are, how old they are. As we ingest the data on all of our sewer systems, we'll be able to show in that dashboard how many are beyond an age that we feel comfortable, and then we can cross-reference the ones we know are in high groundwater just on our knowledge of the area, and then we'll have those lists of immediate, and then we'll be able to schedule those, if you will, based on risk, based on the data that we're collecting. So right now it's all spread apart in different personal accounts or different files for each location. It'll all live in one place where we can make those data-driven decisions when the GIS is up to date.
Mr. Johnson.
Madam Mayor, Council. So far, we've heard the sewer master plan dealing almost exclusively with septic. Okay, do we have any idea as far as water runoff or that kind of sewer system? If you know what I'm talking about. I don't think I have quite the right words.
I think-
Stormwater.
Yeah, so are you referring to stormwater?
Yeah, stormwater.
So our contract is specifically for wastewater system master planning. The stormwater system is a complete separate entity from that. So it's not being looked at under this contract.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Chris. A very informative presentation here. It was my understanding, and apparently incorrect understanding, that the legacy tanks that we were talking about replacing were almost all single-family residential tanks. However, the slide that you showed with the pictures on it showed a manhole. That one.
This one?
That one. Top left shows a manhole cover. Is that a legacy tank for multifamily or for commercial, or is that just a picture of something in poor repair?
I don't know exactly what that one is, but so the way that the system works, there's a septic tank and then there's a pump vault that that houses the actual ejector pump that then pressurizes the system. So
So
that's
we're not just talking about legacy tank replacement, we're talking about
And-
system replacement.
correct. Yeah. So that's I'd say legacy tank or legacy septic replacement, but that is sort of all encompassing for the on-site system. We're not looking at anything for the sewer mains, so the actual force mains that are pressurized by the step system, but just replacing the stuff that's on homeowners' lots. Yes.
Gary?
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah, to add what Chris just said, our systems have these manholes that are the pump systems. They're made out of concrete. They tend to be far more resilient than the tanks themselves, which tend to be a coated steel. Those disintegrate within 25 years typically. And so those investigations will look at the status of both of them. And if the concrete system is in salvageable shape, that won't be replaced. But the tanks are usually the shortest lifespan, and those are usually what drive us to look at that. We do have some concrete tanks, but those are far and few between. So the majority of replacements will be failed steel tanks, but we're going to look at the entire system at each home.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chris, for this. More, I guess, a curiosity on the system as a whole. Currently, I kind of call this is a very unique system. What I kind of generally refer to it this is a septic system or on a citywide scale. When you really shrink it back down, it's a system that could fit in somebody's backyard when you think about it. Are we looking at moving away from that style of system, or is this something we're going to be stuck with essentially for all of eternity, per se?
It's too early to tell.
Okay.
We really need to dive into some more conceptual design before we could start putting a cost to a system-wide replacement. And when you do that, you look at the ongoing O&M, operational costs, the longevity of the system. So a step system should last you 40, 50 years. And I mean, we're at that 50-year mark right now. You have to look at the whole entity as one thing,
Right.
Assign a dollar cost to it. And ultimately that's what's going to drive it, is what's the present value of the system or replacement. And that is our job, is to present all the facts in a logical way so that ultimately the council and the people that run the city are able to land on the best decision moving forward. 50 years ago, the best decision was to put in a step system. I don't know, does that answer your question properly?
Somewhat. Follow up, Mayor, if I could. So not necessarily a whole system or replacement, but I guess it's the functionality of the system. So essentially moving us away from homeowners that are attached to the system from having to have septic tanks on their property, because in the long run, there's a lot of maintenance that the city has to take, a lot of responsibility and a lot of liability that we keep by having those tanks in place. And I understand in the short-term goal, we have to have those. We have ones that are obviously failing, holes punch into them. I see a lot of them. I sell real estate for a living. So, I mean, it's every day it feels like a new septic tank is failing. And so, again, at the time, that was the best system for what the city needed, and the city outgrew that system at a rate that nobody could have ever predicted. Nobody could have projected the city growing at the rate that it did, and the system essentially breaking every bounds and the functionality of how it's worked. But more so, are we going to, is HDL looking at going, okay, here's a way to modify and continue the system as it exists right now to make it expand and work alongside the digester that we're already adding to increase our capacity? Or, hey, after you add this digester, you've increased your capacity, and honestly, the best route is to do a whole completely different design. We have a bunch of property down at the wastewater facility right now where, okay, this is what should be, this is the potentially best option. Again, you're not gonna tell us what we should do, but options for what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Is that a consideration, basically?
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
All options are on the table.
Yeah.
Knowing that there is a sunk cost for infrastructure, that is still functional. But looking at everything, I mean, we have to come into this with an open mind. And complete system replacement might be the best option in the long run, but we really need to look at the data, and as I said, do some concept design, involve everybody on the council. I mean, this isn't the first time that I'm going to be talking to everybody in front of me about this issue. So hopefully we can come up with the right decision that we're not going to kick ourselves in 50 years.
Yeah, and that's really what I'm looking at too, is
Yeah.
making sure that in 10 or 20 years, we're not looking going, dang, we should have gone with the option B instead of option A here. And why didn't we consider these other options instead of just saying the sunk cost fallacy in this case here, going, man, we've already invested money, let's just continue with this, instead of going, man, it would have been better to go this other option and just spend the money up front at that time. And again, we don't know what those options might look like, but thank you. It's good to hear that that's what you guys are working towards.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We are now at public hearing. Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is ordinance serial number 2610, amending the official zoning map of the city of Wasilla to rezone lots 2 and 3, Brookwood Commercial Park subdivision from rural residential to commercial.
Before we open public hearing, I would like to suspend the rules to allow the acting planner or her representative to provide a summary of the resolution and findings adopted by the planning commission. Is there an objection to it? Hearing none. Ms. Nygaard.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to do a little bit of a background. This is actually the third of 3 hearings on this particular piece of legislation. Our applicant, RFN Properties, they did submit an application requesting this rezone from rural residential to commercial. It's 7.81 acres. The Wasilla Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing on April 28th, and they recommended approval. In addition to your packet, Councilmember Johnson did request that we put something in writing explaining and outlining the benefits of this rezone. So I did include that for tonight. Some of the benefits that we looked at. One is increased sales tax revenue. We do provide all of our services strictly on sales tax. We do have, number 2, existing infrastructure support in that area. So you've got upgraded roads and you've got traffic mitigators, things of that sort in that part of the city. And then it is part of our greater Wasilla economic area, which is called GWEA in our strategic plan for economics. And so this part of the city continues to see a lot of commercial development. But I would like to introduce Stephanie Queen. She is our credentialed planner who has been working with our team on ensuring that everybody has all the information they need to understand this application. Stephanie, are you on?
Thank you, Ms. Nygaard. I am. Good evening, Mayor Ledford and council members. For the record, my name is Stephanie Queen, and I supported the planning department in preparing the staff analysis and report for this application. I'm going to keep my remarks kind of brief tonight and just mostly give an update to the report that I gave at the first public hearing, which was on June 22nd. As you just heard, this request is to rezone 2 lots, which comprise approximately 7.81 acres from rural residential to commercial. The properties are located on the corner of South Fern Street and East Hard Rock Circle, and they're currently undeveloped. They're bordered by commercial zone property to the north and to the west, and they're bordered by rural residential zone property to the east and the south, which is developed mostly with single-family homes. The parcels also border Cottonwood Creek, which forms the southern boundary. For some additional context, you may recall the council considered a rezone request for a portion of this property in 2019, and that request ultimately was not approved. While there is some overlap, the current application is not the exact same request. I just wanted to point that out. The 2019 request involved approximately 2.1 acres of what was then a single large parcel that had split zoning on it. So at the time, they were seeking to rezone a portion of the property that was 2.1 acres. Since then, East Hard Rock Circle has been constructed, the property has been subdivided, and the current application, as I mentioned, seeks to rezone a larger portion, both of those lots combined. I'd also like to note one correction to the packet. The land use table that shows a side-by-side comparison between the current rural residential zoning and the proposed commercial zoning, it's no longer current. Since that report was written back in April and we had the Planning Commission meeting in April, it was current at the time that the Planning Commission held their meeting. But as you know, subsequently, the council adopted Ordinance 2026-07, which amended the commercial zoning district specifically to remove some small assisted living and residential uses as conditional uses and instead list them as prohibited uses. So the table in your packet accurately reflected the code in effect at the time, but as I mentioned, is no longer current. The Wasilla Planning Commission, as Ms. Nygaard mentioned, they held their public hearing on April 28th. They found that the application satisfied the relevant code criteria to support the rezone request, and they adopted resolution serial number 2606 recommending approval with the exhibit attached with their findings of fact. In adopting the resolution, specifically, they concluded that the request is generally consistent with the city's 2011 comprehensive plan. They determined that it preserves public health, safety, and welfare, and they concluded that it doesn't exhibit any of the characteristics commonly associated with spot zoning. From a planning perspective, they found that the request is a logical expansion of an existing commercial district, that it reflects the surrounding development pattern, and that it supports the city's role as a regional commercial center, providing additional future commercial investment opportunities for the area. Lastly, I want to note that during the 3 public hearings here at the council level, the city council has received additional written and oral public testimony, which opposes the rezone request. Those comments are included in your packet, and they provide important information for your consideration. Many of the concerns raised relate to the potential for increased traffic, noise, lighting, and general compatibility or incompatibility with nearby residential properties. Overall, though, the Planning Commission does recommend approval, as you can see from the information in your packet with their resolution that they adopted. And that concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to stay on the line if there are any questions. Thank you.
Does council have any questions for the acting planner or her representative? Hearing none, I will now open public hearing on ordinance serial number 2610. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person.
Good evening, I'm Todd Smith with RFM Properties. We are the applicant for the rezone. We maintain that this is
Could you speak up? I missed your name altogether.
My name's Todd Smith. I'm with RFM Properties. We are the applicants for the rezone. We maintain this area as a logical expansion for the commercial zoning and not a residential area or a neighborhood that would be transitioning to commercial use. Rezoning these lots simply aligns with the zoning with the reality of the area and allows the community to meet its demand for commercial zone property. In reviewing the public comments, it's clear that some take issue with the rezone of a property that's solely dedicated to residential that's going to commercial. That's not the case and not reflective of this rezone application. The people commenting appear not to understand the different zoning classifications the city has, nor what's allowed within them. They appear to think it's going from single-family residential to commercial. The change from rural residential to commercial is only an incremental change in zoning. A significant level of commercial is already allowed within the rural residential zoning, and we are not requesting a rezone from R1, R2, RM, all the way to commercial. Cottonwood Creek is also a substantial natural buffer, and any construction will be as close to Fern Street and Hard Rock Circle as possible. That will give the most maximum commercial exposure. The references from the planning report and the public comments regarding the area as generally residential come from the outdated comprehensive plan and the map, both of which Crystal had said they're already updating right now. So though the outdated information labels it as generally residential, it is not. And we are confident that the updated plan and the maps, when they get this done, will show all of the properties on Hard Rock Circle as commercial. Regardless, this rezone has already been determined to align with a comprehensive plan. Builders are simply not interested in building homes on these properties because buyers do not want to live in what is already a commercial environment. There is no reason to try to preserve any level of residential zoning in this area. These properties should be zoned commercial. The business owners and real estate community have consistently told us that though rural residential allows a level of commercial, they want the commercial zoning designation before investing here, and they want it in this area. We're not builders. We only develop the land to its highest and best use, which is commercial in this case. So we can't tell you exactly what's going to be built on these properties. The lot one's already been sold and it's been developed by someone else that's clearing it right now and makes it look like even more commercial. So, and regardless of the outcome of the vote tonight, the property will be marketed, it will be sold, and very likely built as a commercial enterprise. But rezoning to commercial significantly increases the likelihood of attracting the type of businesses and the associated tax base that the city needs. You just heard from the planning department and their support of the rezone. The planning commission also recommend approval. The city council needs to show confidence and faith in these people as they're the people that the city relies on for these decisions. Approving this rezone sends a positive message that the city of Wasilla is not anti-business, anti-development, and it supports responsible growth. And it's prepared to meet the increasing demand for commercial development. We respectfully ask the council to approve the rezone. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to testify? Please begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person.
Hello, my name is Bill Fletcher and I am a resident of Wasilla. I actually live on Hard Rock Circle. I'm here today to speak in opposition to this proposal. I just wanted to share just a little bit of brief history about me. I've lived at this residence for over 30 years. My wife and I, my wife has lived there her entire life as it is old homestead land. We've been fortunate enough to raise our whole family here and been involved in the city. I've actually was on the city planning committee for developing Wonderland Park. I was involved when we were doing the Menard Sports Complex. And believe me, to go to everybody and say, we need to have a sales tax so we can build a sports complex did not go over real well. At the time, my grandmother was at the senior home. So I went over there and I said, you got to realize we need something for this community. We need something for the youth. It's for everybody. There'll be a track there for you to utilize. So the point I'm getting at is that I'm embedded in the city. I realize there's going to be development and there's a place for it. With that being said, I actually recently contacted Mr. Alex Strawn. For those of you who don't know, he's the planning and land use director for the Mat-Su Borough. And I asked him if he had been contacted by the city at all regarding this issue for his opinion. And he said he had not. He was actually, what he told me was he was not surprised that he was not contacted. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, I normally always oppose anytime we're going to do a rezoning where it's going to be on any type of water body or any type of partial flood zone. And he said that he very rarely ever would approve something of this nature. I said, as I mentioned, I understand there's got to be development. This is just not the place. The comps that the planning department continues to use is Wasilla Concrete, Fern Plaza, PERCA, the senior home. All of those are on Connect Goose Bay. Those are not comps that should be utilized. The one lot that just sold was on Connect Goose Bay and happens to be a local business owner that's successful and good for her. She's going to build a coffee shop and she rightfully so because it's on Connect Goose Bay. Myself and the residents in our neighborhood are asking, don't let it come back down into the subdivision where it's zoned residential on the creek. Keep it up on KGB, and there's plenty of opportunity throughout the Wasilla for the development. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name.
Mayor, well, city council members, my name is Megan Mobley. I was born and raised here in the city of Wasilla, and I'm still a resident of the city of Wasilla. I'm speaking today in opposition to the rezoning of the residential land located on Cottonwood Creek and Hard Rock Circle. Growing up here, I spent much of my childhood in this area playing on the creek during the summer and winter months. Now, years later, after graduating from Wasilla High, I am married and a local nurse at Master Regional. I have plans to start a family soon, and I plan to raise my children to love and appreciate the city and its land. I care deeply about the wonderful community we have, and even recently began coaching girls' youth hockey. The last thing I want to see is our beautiful city of Wasilla start rezoning residential land to commercial and potentially jeopardizing the areas we call home. There are better alternatives for commercial establishments. Please do not change the zoning of this land.
Is there anyone else? Seeing no one, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2610?
Madam Mayor, I move ordinance serial 2610.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
It's been moved by Councilmember Graham, and seconded by Councilmember Crafton to adopt ordinance serial number 2610. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I say I move ordinance 2610, that doesn't mean I'm advocating or opposing it. But however, in this case, I think I need to oppose it. I agree with Mr. Smith that parts of that property are best suited for commercial use. Those properties right up against Connect Goose Bay Road there, but those properties between, Hard Rock Circle and the subdivision farther down the street, that portion of it, which is considered to be, in the floodplain, right up against Cottonwood Creek. I mean, that property does not lend itself to commercial development. Given the level of opposition from residents in the subdivision on the opposite side of the creek, I don't see that that's the highest and best use of the property as a whole. If the property were to be re-subdivided in the property to the east, of Hard Rock Circle there was to be changed to something that would not allow commercial, I think the residents may be more accommodating of that. But when we look at the highest and best use of a property, we're not just considering the highest and best use of this little pinpoint of property. We're looking at the highest and best use of the property for the city. And that's the job of these folks that I sit up here with. And while I agree with the Planning Commission that there is certainly some benefits to having some of that land be commercially developed, I think the fact that we're looking at that land right up against the creek, which is very unique. The creek is really a gem, here in the city of Wasilla, and the fact that the borough has spent a lot of time and energy to preserve that creek. I just, at this point, I can't see myself in favor of the rezone. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Ms. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. Made some of these comments previously, and I just mostly want to reiterate where my stance on this is. I see both sides of the coin here. I see why something so close to a major corridor would benefit from commercial development. We more or less just clear cut right in front of it, so now it's got a clear view from KGB. Fern Road is going through a major upgrade as well, which would lend to its commercial activity being really beneficial, and you've got commercial activity right around the corner as well. I think I have a few other concerns with it. One, as I've stated previously, our comprehensive plan, however outdated it might be, states that the future use of of this property is to stay residential. And I want to stand by our planning documents. I mean, we are going through a comprehensive plan redo right now, and maybe that will change at that time. And we can revisit at that time. But even if it does happen, I think the bigger picture that I'm looking at is the honestly significant jump between what's considered rural residential and commercial development. And I'm going to be a bit extreme here, but when we go to commercial, theoretically speaking, you could have a big box store plant itself right there, right across the street, and more or less in somebody's backyard in a creek that I used to grow up playing in as well. I think what the bigger picture we're looking at is there something that would be more of the happy medium? But we don't have that answer at this time. I think that's a deeper conversation that the council and the planning commission need to be having after our comprehensive plan is completed, and we can look at the entire picture as a whole. Even though rural residential allows for commercial, it's very, very light commercial activity. And again, there's not a happy medium in between what would allow that. And I think that's what the residents of this neighborhood are looking at, is they're going, oh man, what is worst case scenario? What could end up in my backyard? Worst case scenario. And Mr. Smith, I know you mentioned any development would happen as close to Hard Rock Circle as possible, but unfortunately, as somebody that's seen development happen, there's no way to guarantee that. People find, where is the best possible way I can situate this piece of property? What can I use with it? It can happen anywhere on that piece of property. And the last reason for me is frankly, I mean, we've seen quite a bit of opposition here, and I think the public is telling us at this time they don't want to see this happen. And so I'm going to have to stand by not only the facts that have been presented to us and the documentation that we have, regardless of what the Planning Commission says. I mean, they've swayed pretty heavily from documentation already before. And in this case here, I don't think that's the best of the city. I think the city's best case is to stick with the future land use development that we have in front of us, and to stick with what the public wants. So I will oppose this rezone. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Madam Mayor, Council. Ms. Nygaard, I want to thank you for responding to me. I do appreciate being responded to when we ask. I guess I would disagree with almost all three of your points. Not that your points are misstated, in that in the very first paragraph you say likelihood. And that really comes to the real crux of my problem with this right now, is the non-specific nature of what we're trying to get accomplished. In order for us to move forward as a city, you want to make sure that the city as a whole benefits. And the word likelihood is a probability, maybe, okay? We don't know what it would be. If somebody was to come forward with a very specific project, we could actually look and say, is this a general benefit for the city? Yes or no? We could make that kind of a quantifiable analysis. Right now, the only thing that I could say is, well, if we go rural residential to commercial, well, maybe the property will sell more and it'll have more benefit to the applicant. Well, that's on one side, but boy, we have an awful lot of opposition on the other. So I guess if we had a specific use for this property, I would be really interested in listening and making a value judgment across the city as a whole. And point number two, the infrastructure. The existing road on, what's the name of it again? I forget. Hard Rock Drive. I actually went out and measured it. It's a 11-inch centerline road with no shoulder. Well, it barely meets residential, let alone the state's definition of commercial or through traffic, which is 12 foot with an 18-inch thing. So, obviously some of the infrastructure with the word all here, well, it's not really all. It's just maybe part of it. I have a problem with that. And the third thing is it's part of the EWEA. Well, it's actually part of the 2011 comp plan. We're doing the 2025, 2026 comp plan now. And if we're going to change that, boy, I would certainly like to see that embedded into the comp plan and then follow it. I have stated on many occasions, if we as a city have a plan, follow the plan. Unless you have a real reason for changing the plan. I'm open to changing the plan, but we need to have a concrete reason for changing a plan. Other than that, if we just invest in a plan, we can invest in the next comp plan. Somebody wants to change it. Well, okay, we really have no plan. So at this particular point, I can't support this unless I know in concrete what the benefit to the city is.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is council ready to vote? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Thank you. This is on the adoption of ordinance serial number 2610. Councilmember Cottle.
No.
Councilmember Graham.
No.
Councilmember Schmidt.
No.
Councilmember Crafton.
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Councilmember Rubio.
No.
The motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2610 fails unanimously.
Madam Clerk, please read the ordinance serial number 2614 by title.
Thank you. That's amending sections of the Wasilla Municipal Code within Chapter 5.16 Sales Tax to create certain uniform provisions for the collections and remittance of sales tax for marketplace facilitators through the Alaska Uniform Remote Seller Sales Tax Code pursuant to Wasilla Municipal Code 516.225, Alaska Uniform Remote Seller Sales Tax Code adopted by reference.
Public hearing on ordinance serial number 2614 is now open. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no one, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2614?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Crafton,
thank you. I move ordinance serial number 2614.
is there a second?
Cottle seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Cottle to adopt ordinance serial number 2614. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. Just more so of a clarification. I'm not sure who this exactly would be best to answer this, but from my understanding, this is more of a cleanup and clarification. It doesn't really pose any significant change to how we collect our remote seller sales tax. And this is just aligning with state laws, if I remember correctly.
Maureen Graham, sales tax accountant and auditor. To Councilman Crafton through the mayor. The ordinance that's being presented is a little bit more than just pairing the codes. The code that was changed by the membership and approved at their March 31st meeting allows the cities or municipalities that collect sales tax to opt in to this marketplace facilitator on local sales that are done through marketplaces. Local sales are businesses that are physically present in the city. And so physically present businesses that may be licensed with us that are doing business on a marketplace, those sales would be collected through the marketplace instead of the local business. So there's really no change. There'll still be tax collected on those local sales, but it will allow us to collect the upcharges on those types of businesses that have, say, like your Airbnbs or your Expedias or your DoorDash. The upcharges that they are collecting, those are not taxed now, only the local, rent or the local sale that's being collected. So this would allow us to collect those, and we would be delegating that authority to collect those taxes on the marketplace to the Alaska Remote Seller Sales Tax Commission, and they would be collected through them. The local sales people, the local businesses that have those sales would then have to remit those sales as being exempt because those taxes are being collected through the marketplace. So we'd have to have some education to the local businesses that may be affected by this. But in the end, they're still going to be charging tax. It's just going to be collected and remitted through a different entity. And they may still have taxes to
remit for sales that they don't do on a marketplace.
Follow up if I could, Mayor. Does this affect the commission that we pay them? Does it increase the amount that we're gonna pay them because they're technically collecting more?
Technically, yes, we would be charged more because the sales that we collect locally, we don't pay, and so we would. But a lot of the sales that are gonna be collected, a lot of communities are going to opt to do this, which is going to bring in, it's expected to bring in quite a few new marketplaces that we're currently not taxing. And statewide, that will increase the amount of sales that are brought in statewide. And the fee structure for the ARSSTC remittance is structured on the gross sales that we pay and collect through that marketplace, through the Alaska Remote Seller Sales Tax Commission. So the thresholds that we will meet will come much quicker. And so those fees will be reduced by, it's expected to be quite a bit, but I don't have the exact numbers. So yes and no. So there's benefits too,
What I'm hearing is the benefit's gonna weigh out the cost.
most likely. But I can't say for certain because I don't have that information, but we're expected to probably take in more than we're gonna give up.
Thank you.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, as a member of the board of the Alaska Municipal League, which is when she talks about they, that's who we're talking about, Alaska Municipal League. You know, myself and the mayor and Ms. Cottle sit on that board. But we also sit, you know, as representatives of the city to the public. And one of the biggest issues that I hear about the city and government in general is lack of transparency and lack of fairness. What this change does is this brings transparency to the changing marketplace. I mean, you know, 10 years ago, you couldn't order from McDonald's and have it delivered to your house, you know, and have a fee charged for that. It didn't work that way. And as it is now, if I were driving for DoorDash or something like that, DoorDash would charge you a fee. You know, I'm just using DoorDash as an example. They would charge you a fee for that delivery. Okay, and then I would get paid as a driver from that fee. But I don't report that as a sale to the city because I am not licensed by the city. I don't have a business license from the city. I'm not selling anything. I'm just providing a service. So what this does is this says those folks, you know, using DoorDash, for instance, could be Airbnb, could be, you know, VRBO, could be anybody. Those people that are providing a service inside the city of Wasilla are responsible for paying the same sales tax as those brick and mortar businesses in the city of Wasilla. So this is, you know, Mr. Crafton mentioned, you know, that there is going to be a slight increase in what we pay, and it's going to be a very small increase in what we pay to the Alaska Remote Seller Sales Tax Commission. But it's a lot cheaper than hiring another Maureen Graham, no relation, I might add, even though the last names are the same. But so this is a good thing for the city and an even better thing for the residents of the city because it promotes and enhances transparency and fairness throughout our dealings.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. We are now at persons to be heard, a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. Please note that this is not a question and answer period. Speakers may be referred to administration and items raised may be taken under advisement. Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name, and if you're a city resident, comments are limited to 3 minutes. And the first one is Megan Mobley. Okay. Mr. Stearns, you're up.
Okay. Do that. Good evening. My name is Tom Stearns. I'm the Senior Ambassador for the Wasilla Area Seniors Incorporated. This coming up month is August. August does not have any exciting things at WASI. So I thought I would give you a little run through of a couple of the things that we do have at WASI. One is our housing department. We have 216 units on our WASI campus. We have 7 buildings. We have at Blueberry Point, which is in Mid Valley, we have 8 units, and we have another building there. We recently received a $50,000 grant from the Matsu Health Foundation. They provided for, it was provided, and we used it for a maintenance truck and garage doors. And everybody is very pleased with that. The other thing is that we do is healthy aging. We had 390 participants through our health, wellness, and fitness programs. The Strong Seniors class has reached capacity. All right. When I go to my class on Wednesdays, I go past the where they have the fitness there. There was a guard at the door saying you cannot come in because we've already had capacity. That's exciting. We have bingo size. We have Zoom fitness classes, provided opportunities for homebound seniors and those unable to travel to remain active and connected. And that's probably going to get more use because we can't get them inside. And then our inbound or in-home services program, our chore service program served 90 seniors. Supplemental services program assisted 32 seniors. More seniors are requesting services than ever before, demonstrating the increasing need within our community. Now, last year, we supplied 112,476 meals to our senior community. We had 86,000 miles driven delivering meals around the city and in the Matsu. We had 365 who were served in our healthy aging program and 1,465 unduplicated seniors served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stearns. You forgot you're going to the fair.
Yes, we are, but all of the things that I would present to you are not in play yet.
Next is Ben Maxwell. So you know one, and next is Bill Fletcher.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I will close persons to be heard. We are now at the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the items for approval under consent agenda by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have the regular meeting minutes, June 8th, 2026, special meeting minutes, June 10th, 2026, and June 11th, 2026. No introductions. We have one remaining resolution on the consent agenda. That is resolution serial number 2640, approving a contract between the City of Wasilla and Alaska Water Laboratories in the amount of $75,000 for water and wastewater laboratory testing services.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Madam Mayor, I move the consent agenda as read.
Is there a second?
Second, Councilman Johnson.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there an objection to the motion? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. We are now, there's no unfinished business. We are moving on to new business. Madam Clerk, please read the item by title.
Thank you. Resolution serial number 2641, approving a contract between the City of Wasilla and Northern Asphalt Construction Incorporated in the amount of $418,720 for the 2026-2027 roads paving program.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve resolution serial number 2641?
Madam Mayor, I move resolution serial number 2641.
Is there a second?
Cottle seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Cottle to approve Resolution 2641. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. Probably to Eric here. Love working on the roads plan. Again, big goal of ours to get all the roads paved right now. The question specifically was around Lee Trevino. I know, I think it was last summer, we had some really bad bumps there from some culverts that were getting frost heaved. And I know you went out, you had your crew go out there and address them and at least get them leveled back out. We just had some gravel patches there. It's kind of a two-part question, but the portion of the bid that you had requested, was that to repave the entirety of the street? Or was it just to patch those specific areas? I haven't been over there in a bit. And the other portion was why we didn't, I think we funded $500,000 for this project. And is that why we're short for this?
Thank you for the question through the mayor. So I can get you specifics on exactly how far the money was expected to go in Lee Trevino. It was going to be a balance between a clean cut in the worst sections. So it was going to be a larger than a normal patch for it, but I can get you a drawing if you're interested. And then your question about why it's an additive alternate is exactly right, to try to maximize the $500,000 in funding. And if we were fortunate enough to see the base bid come in low enough that we had the extra money, we were going to roll that in. We would still like to know what the council's comfort level is with asking for the remaining funds through an ordinance to make the Lee Trevino active in this project. But at this point, approving this would only award the base bid.
To follow up, Mayor, so I think we put forward 500, so you're what, 80,000 short, roughly, somewhere in there. So this is that 164 basically covers a larger than normal patch. Is that what I understood? Not the paving of entirely of Lee Trevino?
I don't have the map memorized to explain exactly where it starts and stops.
Okay.
But it was trying to be as efficient with what we replaced as we could, leaving what we thought had a few more years of life in it, but broader than just those culvert crossings.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you. Once again for Eric. So Eric, we're about, $420,000 of $500,000 that was budgeted for paving. So if you were to patch the culvert repairs with pavement, would that come out of the roads paving program, or would that just be normal maintenance? How would that work?
Mr. Graham. So let me see if I understand. You're asking if we added work to the contract to add work to Lee Trevino, where those extra funds would come from?
Well, this money here is capital money.
Correct.
Okay, but if you decided to just patch the culverts, that were dug up, those trenches that were essentially filled with gravel.
Yes.
On Lee Trevino, and do nothing else on that, would that be considered capital money doing that, or is that going to be just routine roads maintenance money?
I would consider it capital, and I would use those funds, the remaining of the $500,000 to do that work.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. Since we're talking about paving, could we just look at where does this bring us to our ultimate road paving goal here?
I'd be happy to send the council a memo
An updated
breaking down
one.
what is left.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Next is resolution serial number 2642, approving a contract between the City of Wasilla and the Alaska Railroad Corporation for $537,077 in consideration for railroad contract work for the East Glenwood Avenue Railroad Crossing Improvements Program.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2642?
Madam Mayor, I move resolution 2642.
Is there a second?
Second.
seconds. Oh.
It has been moved by Councilmember Graham, seconded by Councilmember Rubio to approve the 2642, resolution serial number 2642. Is there discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm a bit confused as I drive around the valley as to what the Alaska Railroad Corporation is trying to do. I frequently use Glenwood Avenue and frequently, use that crossing there, which to me seems to be in pretty good repair. The arms work, the signals work, the decking is intact. I don't know anything about the rails, but I never see the trains, having a slow order to go through there because the rails are beat up. Whereas in other portions of the valley, when I drive through, I see railroad crossings that are in very poor repair. So are you aware of some sort of master plan that the railroad has to fix these crossings, or are they just coming to the city of Wasilla because they know, if we come to you, you have to pay it? And they're not coming to the borough because they say, well, the borough doesn't have any money, so we're not gonna go there.
Through the mayor, Mr. Graham, I don't know of an overall master plan from the railroad. I'm sure they have to make one because they're funded federally, so they do have a document. I just haven't had the bandwidth to dive into that. Our relationship is one way with the railroad. They do dictate what we must do. They have a working plan, I guess you could say, where they insist that the lifespan of a crossing's equipment is 25 years. And so they have audited the Glenwood crossing and have found that all of it is approaching that. And some of it is beyond it. The outbuilding that's next door, that's a battery backup so that the crossings still work when there's no power. Those are obsolete. They can't get parts for those, as well as the crossing arm structure. So they look at it as lifespan, and they look at it as when there's a failure, either because of an accident or a windstorm or something else, they can't get parts for it. So they're in a modernization response to all of their infrastructure. Whether or not we see them push us harder than the borough, I don't know, but they are using what appears to us to be a standard renewal period, which is 25 years, and that's why Glenwood is on the top of the list.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Johnson?
Madam Mayor and Council, dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway. What happens if we just simply say no?
Through the mayor, I would have to defer to our legal counsel for not a hearing.
Yeah. We can't say no.
They're asking for us for money. I mean, say no.
Holly?
Honestly, I was not anticipating this question, so I probably will need a few minutes to give you an accurate answer. We could take a 5-minute recess.
Yes. We will take a 5-minute recess. It is 7:13. We'll be back at 7:18. Holly?
Okay, so what I would say is there room to say that we do not have to use the railroad? Yes, but we are obligated under the permit to use standard specifications for work on railroad property, which is an attachment to the original permit. And it is very lengthy and heavily regulated and involves a lot of things very specific to railroad and construction on railroad property. And a lot of obligations that they're imposing. So in light of that, I would say deciding to go a different direction, which has not been anticipated since 2002, even when they were getting reimbursed by the borough, and they were changing their billing structure, that this was still the reimbursable services agreement, this structure where they provide the services and the city pays for the costs is what has been done since the beginning. If you want to explore telling the railroad that we will go out to bid and get a contractor that will follow the standard specifications for work on railroad property, I would want to read, this is a 13-page, very small font specification. So I am a little worried that in here somewhere are provisions that make it untenable at the least to use another contractor, but I can't make that determination without reading it carefully. So I don't know if that helps, but that's what I was able to determine tonight.
Okay, is there further discussion on 2642?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt?
So does a portion of that get paid by any other, does the railroad participate, or does the county participate, or does the state participate, or is it just the city is paying for this whole $500,000?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Schmidt, the city pays for all of it. There is a bit of a involvement with DOT in that they get to review our plan along with along with the railroad, which is weird and unique because we don't have a relationship with DOT in this. But I think it's an outgrowth of the railroad and DOT getting kind of sideways with each other. And so they mandate that DOT reviews. But cost sharing wise, it's just the permit holder, which is just the city.
Thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, 2642 passes. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Next item is discussion committee of the whole. This is the proposal to regulate the use of city-owned vehicles.
Is there a motion to enter committee of the whole?
Madam Mayor, I move that we enter committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It has been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to enter the committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, we are now in committee of the whole. Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I'll kick this off since I was the original one that proposed this and had asked Ms. Cottle here to be my second so that this item could be put on the agenda for discussion. So before us is essentially just an initial draft. I believe before the attorney wanted to take the time and effort and really the dollars to draft an actual ordinance, she asked for some council discussion and council input to verify this was something that we wanted to go forward with. My justification reasoning for wanting to put this forward was just, I think, for clarification purposes on fairness of the use of city vehicles and making sure that city property was used in its appropriate capacity, as well as putting guidelines in place to make it fair for the people that do use the city vehicles specifically. One of the big things that I also wanted to make sure wasn't included in here was like the police officer vehicles. I'm in very strong favor of making sure our police officers are still taking those vehicles home. I don't know about you, but there's something to say about being like, yeah, there's an officer that lives down the street, seeing that vehicle in their driveway. Plus on top of that, there's, they're marked vehicles. Everybody knows what they are. So, that would be kind of my initial thoughts on this, and I'd be curious to hear what the rest of the council has to say about this draft ordinance.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Crafton. You know, we're not the only city in the state, or even the only city in the United States, for that matter, that has a plethora of vehicles used by a plethora of different people for a plethora of different uses. I would, rather than reinvent the wheel, I'd kind of like to see what some other cities with similar sized vehicle fleets and the similar use of vehicles are doing, so that we don't end up, bringing something forward. And I appreciate you bringing this forward. So we don't end up bringing something forward and then, 3 months later going, oops, maybe we need to, maybe we should have learned from Palmer. Maybe we should have learned from Fairbanks. Maybe we should have learned from Anchorage. Maybe we should have learned from Kenai how they're regulating the use of those vehicles and what they think is are positives and what they think are negatives, so that we can take advantage of their experience and not. And I'm not saying that this would be that there are negatives in here, but I think there are enough questions in here that we should, hopefully get a little bit better look at it. And I think we should also make sure that we weigh in with our unions, because some, that the ability to use a vehicle is essentially a benefit to that individual as well as the city. So we should kind of figure out, is it going to affect, union contracts or union negotiations, and kind of go from there. I mean, we've got a law firm with a very experienced union negotiator, so she knows what is being seen and what is being said around. So I would just like to hear what other cities are doing and what successes and failures that they've had before we move forward with something specific. But I do a couple things. I think if you're driving a vehicle that the city of Wasilla is paying for, it should say City of Wasilla on it. There should be no question. I think if you don't have a need to respond after normal business hours, well, then you don't really need to take that vehicle home. There are, situations and departments where that is required, and taking a vehicle home is a great idea. And as far as the police, yeah, if they live within, 10 miles of city limits or something, that's fine. But, Anchorage learned 40 years ago that if you want to live out in Thunderbird Falls, well, guess what? You're dropping your car off before you get there, because they don't want the cars out that far. But, there's a lot we could learn and a lot we could discuss from seeing what other cities have done and what has worked and what doesn't work. What sounds like a good idea, isn't always so. But I would like to see more information before we dive into something. Thank you.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Kathy?
when Mr. Crafton talked to me about this, I definitely wanted to bring it up for discussion. There is one thing in here that I would like considered for the future of this, if we do adopt, changes. And I agree with Councilman Graham. It's always good to know what other communities are doing. Don't need to reinvent the wheel, but can we tweak our wheel, add a few spokes, remove a few spokes, whatever. One of the things is with the exceptions, knowing firsthand when you have a very involved and active mayor. A lot of times your mayor's at evening meetings, things like that. It's not always prudent for a mayor to have to drive a vehicle back to City Hall, get their personal vehicle. I believe that the mayor's position should be part of the exception, that they have a take-home vehicle. And it doesn't matter who the mayor is, but knowing firsthand how late my husband was at meetings and things, and it was, when I see the whites of your eyes is when I will see you. When you're very involved like that, you're everywhere representing the city and doing things. And I think that should be part of The exception is that the mayor has a take-home vehicle, just from seeing firsthand how late mayors come home when they're very involved in doing things. So that's just my comment with that.
Mr. Schmidt,
In reading what we have in place here on P&P 60 or 6-21, it's definitely outdated because, like, in reading it on page 151 of the notes here, the vehicle operator responsibilities, checking the fuel, oil, water, transmission fluid levels, lights, horn, wipers, tire inflation prior to operation. Some of that, I mean, they don't even have water in them anymore. I mean, I don't know, that's pretty outdated. And most transmissions are not really checkable before you operate it every time. I mean, I could ask the mayor, did you check the transmission fluid in your car ever?
I don't know how to open the hood.
Okay, so so she's not in complaint, this is what I'm hearing, but some of this stuff does need updated is what it's looking like. That's all I have on that.
One thing I just want to make sure council's aware, you have 2.01060 is your prohibited acts provisions under your code of ethics, and subsection F, just so you're aware of what is in the code itself right now, says no city official may use, request, or permit the use of any city vehicles, equipment, materials, or property for any non-city purpose, including but not limited to private financial gain, unless that use is available to the general public on the same terms, or unless such use is included in the compensation package provided to the specific official. This subsection does not prohibit de minimis personal use. So just note that that's there, and it may go, if you're looking for an exemption, that's the type of provision. Maybe you include the vehicle for the mayor as part of a compensation package, or that use, just sort of monetize that use, and then they can take their car home as part of that package.
Okay, is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. So just as the, more or less the sponsor of this, from what I'm understanding is maybe we need to go look at some other cities. I'll get connected with the attorney, and I don't know, Madam Clerk or Madam Attorney there, at that point, we would just come forward with an ordinance and take it from there, or if we'd come back as kind of more of a parley question, and, or would we come back to essentially the conversation we're having right now?
One thing I can recommend too is that we use a paralegal. We have fantastic paralegals at Birchwharton, so we can, because this is just a collection of data, that might make that initial step, preliminary step, a little more cost effective. And then I can see if one of the paralegals can bring a PowerPoint or report to council and just kind of give you what municipalities are doing, eliminating to some comparable markets like we used for Title 16.
I think that's where, yeah, you basically said, here's what we found. We didn't go through every line by line, but we know this is a comparable city. Here it is. Go through it. I mean, that works for me. I can look through that type of aspect. So thank you. Madam Mayor, I move that we exit committee as a whole.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Crafton to exit committee of the whole. Is there a second?
Rubio seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to exit committee of the whole. The time is 7:40. Madam Clerk, please read the next item by title.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's the proposal to repeal and reenact provisions of the Wasilla Municipal Code related to transfers of appropriations. Again, committee of the whole.
Is there a motion to enter committee of the whole?
Madam Mayor, I move that we enter committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
Cottle seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Cottle to enter committee of the whole. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, we are now in committee of the whole. The time is 7:41.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, just as the sponsor to this one here, I'll give you a little bit of the background as to what this is coming from. So after this year's budget meeting, one of my biggest concerns was the amount of money that flowed through a department. And I completely understand that, the administration needs the ability to move money as appropriate to operate their day-to-day business of the city. I mean, they are the executives of the city, and that's their goal. That's what we empower them to do. One of my biggest struggles, and something that we've even had a conversation with at the council here, is if the ability to move money is limitless, what's the point of us taking all of the time to go through the budget? At that point, really what we should be doing is approving a total number and saying, have fun. Because at that point, at the end of the day, all that matters is, you know, how much is being spent, not exactly what that money is being spent on. So the intention behind this ordinance is to help rein some of that moving of funds in. There's a little bit of a two-factor that I did here. In one case, it actually empowers our department heads a little bit more. The current method doesn't allow them to move funds without going to the mayor. This new method would allow them to move up to $5,000 within their department as they see fit. They can move up to $10,000, so an additional $5,000 with the mayor's approval. And then the mayor has the ability more or less to move the money as she does right now, but we're now putting a $10,000 cap. Just to give a little bit more of a further explanation on where I came up with some of this is just looking at some of the department numbers. I know some of these departments were talking about millions of dollars, but some of these account levels are really only 10, 20, you know, up to $50,000. So $5,000 or $10,000 is actually a lot inside some of these accounts. The goal at the end of all of this, and something that I think the council continues to preach, is transparency with our finances. I think this creates a higher level of transparency with the council and the public, the administration and the council, and really just the overall aspect of how we see the funds being moved around. Again, with this, I didn't want to completely handicap the administration. My intention behind all of this was to, one, empower our department heads a little bit more, which I think it does, but also make sure that the council has the appropriate oversight, which is, at the end of the day, our biggest job, which is that budget. So I'd be curious to hear what the rest of the council has to say about how these numbers look. And again, I could be wrong on the numbers. Maybe the intent is there, but the numbers are wrong. So I'd be curious to hear what everybody says.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Crafton on this, and the fact that I was foreseeing when we get this ClearGov that it was going to be an issue because we would actually see what money was being spent in each account. And obviously we want to be transparent, and if we're moving, you know, like 3,000, 3,000, 3,000 to get a $15,000 item in something we budgeted for 3,000. That's why I was concerned with ClearGov, because it's going to be very transparent on what happened there. And I just want to make sure everybody in the city knows where those monies are appropriated to. And if we're approving them for a certain item, let's use them for the certain item. And if it's over a certain dollar amount, I would agree, maybe some little bit more restriction of, hey, we're going to move quite a bit of money, and maybe the mayor should be the one in charge of saying, hey, yeah, that's good to go, let's make it happen.
Mr. Johnson?
Madam Mayor and Council, I mean, I sort of like the idea of E there where it says the transfer may be approved essentially by the city council by resolution. That does give us some transparency. My only concern is how much additional paperwork we're actually asking the administration to do. So I think we'd have to be very careful that we don't have unintended consequences when we set our dollar limits. That'd be my only concern with it.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ian, for bringing this forward. You know, last summer, I spent some time on the same questions that Ian has addressed and came up with a draft ordinance, and then spent some time with Ted Leonard, who was our acting finance director at the time. and he had some, valid questions, I think about, concerns. You know, his main concern was, well, you know, we are gonna be bringing on a new finance director. You know, let's find out what he or she thinks, you know, before we do this. And, you know, I mean, this was, I don't know how much time you've had, with the new director, but I mean, this kind of is dropping something in her lap, you know, with kind of short notice. So I think that the finance director should be part of this discussion after having had time to look at it. Another concern that Ted had was the amount of record keeping required, and Mr. Schmidt talked about ClearGov. You know, when it actually happens, you know, when we get ClearGov in there and we can actually see what's going on, it'll be easier to do. But after, you know, looking at this for, you know, over a year now, I agree, the mayor is the one that's gonna have to make the decision. Yes, we can move money, no, or we should move money, or no, we shouldn't move that money. But I would feel comfortable as a city council member saying, well, you know, Eric, if you wanna take $500 out of tools and equipment and move it over to some other, area which was unfunded or underfunded, you know, take a few minutes and put together an IM, inform the council. Because you came to the council and you said, this is the money I need. And now we're getting to the point, and I'm just using you as a scapegoat, let's call it that. But, you know, so you came to the council and you said, this is the budget that we need. And that was after months of coordinating with finance and other directors and with the mayor, and said, this is the money that we need. And we've sat here, you know, I mean, this is my 11th budget that I've gone through. We've sat here and argued over hundreds of dollars, you know, not just $5,000 or $10,000. You know, we have, well, I won't say argued about it, but we have had discussions about hundreds of dollars and whether we should approve that or we shouldn't approve that, or do you really need that? Can you do without it? You know, do we need, you know, $5,000 worth of toilet paper, or do we need $2,000 worth of toilet paper? You know, we've had those discussions for years, and we've always said, well, we're not going to do that next year, but we always do it. But so I would like to see us, you know, say if that's what the department heads want to do, and the mayor thinks it's a good idea, put together an IM and say, hey, you know, in this fund we intend to move money that was budgeted in Fund A, and we're going to move it to not necessarily fund, but account A into account B. And that way, I think the city council is informed of what's going on. It's an IM, so they have the opportunity, since it's going to be brought up at the dais, they have their opportunity to comment on that. And just like tonight, you know, if you have a bunch of people that come forward and say, you know, I think that's a bad idea. Well, you know, the administration is going to listen. And if the administration disagrees, well, then he or she, the mayor, will have a good explanation of why that's necessary. But I would rather see nothing to do with the dollar amounts and more to do with the city council knowing about things. Because when it comes to moving $500 or $5,000, that need doesn't happen. Oh my God, I need $500 tomorrow. You know, we're the city. We move at a snail's pace when we're racing. So you know, there's time to bring IMs forward and to have those discussions at the council. So rather than hamstring the administration, I would just say let's advise the city council. Thank you.
Madam
Can I
Mayor.
say something?
Yes.
Just as an educational point, I think the city has 30 days to pay an invoice. So as an example, I contacted AML for the city's member dues. They quoted me a price, I prepared the budget, lo and behold, I get the invoice, and I'm a few $1,000s short because the board raised dues, which is great, in May after, and I was not informed. So, but I only have 30 days to pay that invoice.
Mhm.
So it's not that I would be opposed to informing the council, but I may have to pay it before it's in the packet.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor.
Hang on. Eric?
I appreciate Councilmember Graham picking on me. I have a question, I guess, with the genesis of this proposal. Has there been any numbers run on the number of previous transfers that exceed the 5,000 per director and exceed the $10,000 per mayor. Because I wonder if this is a lot of work for an action that doesn't happen very often. And my concern too is one that Mr. Johnson shared, is that we'll be inadvertently creating a burdensome process when it really comes down to, you know, the purview of the mayor and making those operational decisions. Their transparency and with the new programs that we're going to bring in, I think will be a lot of value in that. But I wonder if we need to get further down the road on that so the council can see how it works before an actual number is selected, if the council still feels that there's lacking transparency.
Mr. Crafton?
Thank you, Mayor. Just few points of clarification. These numbers are actually cumulative. So $500 here and $500 today and $500 tomorrow is now $1,000, and you're capped at 5,000. The smaller level transfers actually we built in here was actually a higher level of reporting. So those IMs that Mr. Graham was just talking about would actually, this ordinance would capture. And so though they would actually be reported on, I think it's a monthly level is what we did. So actually on a monthly basis, any transfers that happen that month, whether it be by the directors or the mayor, would actually end up being reported. So essentially part of the reason why I made some of these changes and went this direction was exactly the example that Mr. Graham gave, was that Eric, because we're already picking on you, you know, we like to pick on you. It's probably because you oversee so much here. You know when you're coming up short on something. You know, you don't know it at the time of the budget, but again, down the road, as Jamie just gave the example of, you get the invoice and you go, oh, well, now this one's short. And instead of having to now go and get approval to make that transfer, in Jamie's case here, she would be able to do it. This ordinance would actually empower her as a department head to make that transfer herself. And then she would just put it in an IM, a collective IM that would happen once a month at one of the council meetings. I don't know if they'd want to do it. Again, it's really at the mercy of the finance director at that point on how they want to report that to us. Again, this goal is, one, to empower the directors to have that capability, and it's actually giving them more authority that they currently is not vested in them. But again, the overall concern that I put some of these numbers on is when I looked at some of these department level accounts, what we would see is that in our budget this year, an account said, hey, they came in under budget. And the amended amount of the budget that they had was $40,000. But if you actually took the step and took the time to go look at what was actually given to them, it was well less than $10,000 less than that number. So that's part of where these numbers kind of came into play, was to prevent from what we're seeing is on face value, somebody's under budget. But in actuality, we gave them a lower number, and because they were able to transfer money around more or less without our knowledge, now that number ends up being higher. But then they can say, oh, well, we put more in here, we're actually still under budget. And again, it goes back to, if that's what we care about, then what matters is the number at the bottom of the page, not the numbers across the page. And so I don't want to fully handicap the administration as a whole. I want to empower them to be able to operate this city, but the council's job is the budget. And the council has repeatedly said time and time again, we care about pretty much every number on that page.
Holly?
One thing I want to add to this is, when talking with Councilmember Crafton, this is something I wanted to come before council in part because of the legal fees involved. So Title 29, Alaska statutes, has a provision that says transfer of appropriations shall be by ordinance. There's no other information involved. It's in a laundry list of things that occur by ordinance. Communities across Alaska have very similar structures to Wasilla. But in order to, if we're going to delve into this, I would recommend that we delve into the legislative history and determine whether or not we are supposed to be doing all transfers of appropriations, which when you budget, you're appropriating, you know, and then you have further appropriations by ordinance, which is a large Pandora's box. And I would like to say, please do not shoot the messenger. I am just saying this exists in Title 29. And so that's one of those things. While Councilmember Crafton may be looking at it less restrictive and sort of just a shift to transparency, we do need to look at that title, at that state law and its implications if we're going to amend or change the law. Maybe we should in general, but this is an area that I have not been asked to look at before for another municipality, but we may have sort of stumbled across something that has implications.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to exit committee of the whole?
Madam Mayor, I move that we exit committee of the whole.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Are we doing anything?
It's been moved by Councilmember Crafton and seconded by Councilmember Schmidt to exit committee of the whole. Is there objection? The time is 7:57. We are moving on. There is no communication items, so we'll move into audience comments. This is a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. You got 3 minutes.
I won't need them.
Okay, please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name.
My name is David Seals. I'm a resident of the city of Wasilla, and I'm on the planning commission, just to be upfront. So I've been on the planning commission for quite a while, and tonight's an excellent time for me to kind of give you my overview of the planning commission. And I'll give it to you in a nutshell. You got these squirrels over here, and they've got really nice nuts, and they're proud of their nuts. But you got another group of squirrels that wants to come in, and they want to have their nuts too, and they want to be proud of their nuts. But the original squirrels and all the other squirrels around there, it's no, 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 not in my neighborhood. And that's how it's breaking down here, and that's not really how it should work. You know, we follow rules. You follow rules. We follow rules. The planning commission follows rules. But there's an overburden, you look at the original squirrels more than you look at the new squirrels. And I'm just going to be quite honest with you about that. So in a nutshell, no, 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 not in my neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else? Seeing no one, we close audience comments and bring it back to the dais. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Candidate filing for our October 6th election closes this Friday, the 31st. We do have folks that have filed for office. That list is available at our counter as well as online. And then we will see you all here next regular meeting, August 10th. And then if you'll note in your clerk's report, due to Mayor Ledford's schedule, Deputy Mayor Rubio, Councilmember Rubio will be chairing both of our meetings in August. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Madam Attorney.
No comment, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Cottle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No comments tonight.
Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, it's really great to see a crowd here. Unfortunately, we don't get a crowd unless there's something that people are very interested in. Not that what we do day to day is boring, but it's not interesting generally to the public. But it was great to see people here, people showing up, people willing to share their opinions and talk about their pile of nuts versus somebody else's pile of nuts, so to speak. So, but I did want to mention, planning commission and the role of the planning commission and how the planning commission works. The planning commission is appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council, but there aren't really any qualifications, so to speak, to be on the planning commission, other than having a genuine interest and passion for the community, which is significant. The planning commission does have unique powers that even the city council doesn't have through their quasi judicial hearing methods to get things settled. But once again, it is an appointed position versus the city council, which is an elected position. So the planning commission represents the city, okay? Each of us sitting up front here represent the residents and the city, so we have to have that balance between them. So much like the testimony, the first testimony today that said, this is the highest and best use of that property, from an appraisal standpoint, well, there is absolutely no question that the highest and best use of that property monetarily is commercial. But for the city as a whole, and that's what we have to look at, we said, no, that is not the case. There's ways to make that happen, for that land to become commercial, but what was brought before us was not a workable plan. And since we are elected, as opposed to appointed, we have to look at things on a different standard. For the planning commission, it's much easier for you to be controversial, and people will say, oh, it's just the planning commission. But when you do that, when you're sitting up here, you find yourself out of work next October. So we have to balance those things. So when a neighborhood organizes and comes to us and says, no, we're going to listen. If developer comes to us with people organized around him and says, this is it, then we've got two clear sides to look at and differing sides to look at. In this case, it was 15 versus 1, and amazingly enough, 15 won. So that's how that worked out. But the difference between the planning commission and the elected council is significant in that, as part of a representative republic or representative democracy, we have to represent everyone. We don't get to just represent planners or developers or neighborhoods. We have to look at the whole thing, which the planning commission does as well, but our standard is a little bit different. So thank you.
Councilmember Crafton.
Thank you, Mayor, and for those that hung out with us, thank you for being here. Again, I would agree as well. I love seeing a crowd of people here. Again, unfortunately, it seems to only be when things are controversial and something wants to rile the crowd. Overall, though, I think a really good meeting. And to the council, I just want to say thank you much for indulging me in these proposals here. Sometimes it's not just black and white for the clerk, the attorney, and I to just say, hey, here's an ordinance, put it together, let's bring it to council. I think we've done a really good job at refining our code, and sometimes putting different aspects of the code into place requires a little bit more of a fine-tuned comb to find what fits the city. So thank you much for it, and we will see you guys next time.
Councilmember Rubio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I'll echo what they said. Great meeting tonight with the community being involved. I love people showing up and voicing what their concerns are, good or bad. On another note, I passed Carter Lake today and saw the weed harvester, and we kind of dropped that tonight. What is the schedule on that? I don't know if that goes to Eric for Public Works.
It does.
Okay.
Through the mayor, maybe you can restate your question. Schedule on how long it runs?
Yeah, just tell me the process of it.
So we're usually trying to get it in the water by the 1st of July. That's typically when the weeds are high enough that there's value being out there. And then it will operate through most of the summer. I don't know I'll get with the supervisor to figure out how long he was forecasting it to go this summer. But it's usually when there's still activity on the lake and it's still growing that we're out there harvesting it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson.
Madam Mayor and Council, in retrospect, going back to what Dave was saying, I was sitting here just sort of reminiscing or going over some of the things that have happened this year in terms of zoning and property. I remember the first one, 2601. Boy, we had a lot of support for in-residence use of commercial property for assisted living. CU 2602, we had wanting to use an apartment building in a commercially zoned thing, big controversy there. The next one was 3, where again, we had commercial property where we wanted to have more residences in it. In fact, it was a whole complex of 65 different buildings. And then, of course, you come to the rezone where we take and we have residential property, and then we want to use it into commercial. And I'm going, there's no consistency. We're not following any plan. And if we're going to have a plan, we follow the plan. We be consistent in our approach. In one case, you have somebody who wants to build housing on a commercial property, and here you want to take commercial property and make commercial property out of residence. I mean, it's not consistent. And again, it comes down to what is the best use of this property for the whole city. And we are in a prime situation right now to come out with a really decent comp plan. Let's put our effort into a comp plan and then follow it. Let's use this fall, because we're going to have hearings this fall on our comp plan. And let's make that meaningful. So, thank you.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I do appreciate that. And welcome again, Wendy. Hopefully you're falling into your position and learning everything that there is to know about it and diving in on that. And Eric, I wanted to say thank you for having Chris Bowman come out. That was a good presentation. Appreciated that. I learned quite a bit about some of that system over there. So thank you for lining up that for us to hear. And thank you, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay, all right. The time is 8:09, and with nothing else to come before the council,